Madness Beverage was developed by Blue Sunset Games and released on most major consoles such as PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and even Steam around the year of 2021. It seems to be developed in the Unity engine and tries to pay homage to games like Serious Sam and other mid to late 90s first-person shooters. You fight hordes of Hell's minions as they take aim in ways that allow you to dodge and weave between their fire in a bid to stay alive. It also employs a beverage gimmick, which gives your character superpowers in exchange for some limited weaknesses. And it's all tied together with a few cutscenes and some interludes within your home ship and some sort of alien city. This probably would have been a forgettable release, and one I would have never really talked about, except that it just came out for the Atari VCS on December 20th, 2023. So is this a game worth downloading for a console thirsting for good content that's not provided by Atari? Or is it a waste of your hard-earned money? Let's find out. When you start up Madness Beverage, you are introduced to the protagonist, who is a hard-talking, foul-language-using space pirate, and I have to say, I do not like this guy. I don't know if they were trying way too hard to make him cool and edgy, or if he's meant to be unlikable, but either way, I really just don't like him. He enters some spooky space castle to fight the off-brand Thanos, and despite doing well in the playable portion of the battle, apparently off-brand Thanos kicked my butt, and it was all thanks to his delicious space soda. So you begin your mission, across 5 levels, to get yourself some of that sweet RC Cola, Madness Beverage. I don't know, I think they're trying a sort of plasmid thing like in BioShock, or maybe it's closely tied to some version of Serious Sam, but I didn't get the whole beverage thing. They advertise that they would help you, but they also come with some serious negatives, and if I'm honest, I think I only used them 3 or 4 times in my whole playthrough. So if you can beat the game without using them, well, doesn't that sort of defeat the purpose of a game called Madness Beverage? Whatever. Anyway, the game opens up and you have to get yourself 5 flavors of this stuff from 5 different levels. Then take them to some guy in a cool looking hub world. But the hub world is devoid of anything to do. I like seeing all the different alien races and vendors set up in this area, but all you can do is give your buddy new ingredients for Space Pop and refill your ammo for free. Feels like a waste of a cool area if you ask me. Outside of this hub world, you can enter 5 different battlefields from a snow level, a fire world, an alien planet, and a few others. The shooting gameplay is okay, but the default movement and aiming speed is far too touchy and hectic for my taste. And it's like that for all but the lowest 2 settings. Only when I rolled it down this far did I finally feel like I had control of my aiming. You get several different guns as expected, but they're all pretty standard fare. Well, for the most part. You get normal weapons like assault rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, which are useless by the way, a tiny pistol that shoots big shots, haha, very funny, a force gun, and a rocket launcher. You also get, quote, heavy weapons, unquote, like a chain gun, a sort of electrified railgun thing, and a unicorn's head? Yeah, the unicorn's head feels like some secret goofy weapon that should be super overpowered, but it's not. The chain gun blows all of them out of the water. And really, all you need for your loadout is a rocket launcher, a shotgun, and the chain gun. The rocket launcher and the chain gun are for the big guys, and the shotgun is for everything else. We can also get into the beverages a bit, but as I said before, they really aren't needed. You have one that lets you do 3 times damage to enemies, but it also brings out phantom enemies that you'll have to fight too. And with how many enemies are constantly spawning all over the place, the last thing you want is more to fight. You can also get a beverage that makes you faster, but enemies are drawn to you. One beverage that lets you kill enemies when they get close to you, but you also have a chance to get taken to some off-world planet with them, and it's just kinda ridiculous. The cons are way too bad in my opinion to make these beverages useful, and you seriously can ignore them the whole time. It's just sad that the game's main gimmick is so forgettable and unnecessary. Besides that, the combat is okay, but nothing that I felt inclined to continue playing once I was done with the story. The waves of enemies last way too long as you wait for them to all spawn in to open doors, and there really isn't too much variety in the enemies you face either. You have a grunt that runs at you for melee attacks, a big ugly guy that shoots at you, another disgusting ball thing with a gun on its head, a hand that flies at you for major damage, these really annoying flying demon things, and 2 large enemies who are pretty physically imposing, but are pretty weak honestly. There are variations of most of these enemies, some with freezing powers, some with blow-up powers, some with armor, and more, but they all feel and act the same. The combat would get a pass for being acceptable, if not a bit boring, except for when the freezing guys get introduced. It's too easy to get frozen in place, and that's really just annoying. And it happens way too often once they're introduced. For the Atari VCS, the graphics are pretty good, but the lighting effects look and feel weird at times. In one room, all the enemies were turning gray, and I think it was supposed to be due to the lighting, but it just looked weird. I don't know, the graphics are fun, but the game chugs sometimes, even when it feels like it shouldn't, and the load times are overly long. I just feel like this game is really unoptimized. The sound is pretty good though, and even if most of the music is generic rock, I kinda liked it. I dug the sounds of the guns and enemies too. The sound design is the only real pass I can give this game.
Whoa! I'm not ready for this.
Except for the fact that you have to listen to quips from the main character the whole time. This guy kills this game. He repeats the same things over and over, and you're going to hate the sound of his voice by the time you're done with this 5-hour campaign. That's right, the main game lasts about 5 hours. But then there's the Coliseum mode, which is a survival thing where you fight off wave after wave of enemies with a full arsenal of weapons, but it's really not that fun, unless you like this combat. There's also a New Game Plus, which I assume lets you take the weapons you finish the game with into a new, maybe more intricate story mode, but no thank you. I had enough with the normal game. I can't put myself through any more. But I didn't hate everything about Madness Beverage, and I think the game has a few things it could build on in the future. Number one is the boss fights. These were interesting and fun in my opinion, and some of the bosses were absolutely massive and daunting to face. I wish there was more bosses honestly, as I actually had fun fighting some of them. And number two, I really liked the parts of the world they built. I wish I could interact with some of the cool aliens in the hub world, and I wish there was more stuff to buy and collect from them. I don't know, maybe I'm alone on this one, but if they didn't focus on giving the main character so much attitude, and instead let me find out what all these crazy aliens were up to, and maybe even purchase things from them or heck, run missions for them, I would have been more intrigued. But they didn't go that route, and I guess there's no use dwelling on it. So I think you all figured out how I feel about Madness Beverage at this point, but let's break it all down in my trademarked and completely unique Atari Network pros and cons section. For the pros, I really enjoy the boss battles. They were by far the highlight of the game for me. I did like that there were a good variety of weapons, even if most were useless, and once you turn the speed of the character movement down, the gameplay was pretty good. I do like parts of the world that the developer built, and the game has some really good sound design in my opinion. For the negatives, the main character is not likable at all, and he really got on my nerves. The game is clearly not optimized for the Atari VCS, and doesn't seem to run very well, and it takes forever to load. The main beverage gimmick can be safely ignored, which doesn't seem like good game design. And they make the beverages come with massive downsides. I don't understand why they did that. It's like they don't want you to use them. The wave-based sections of the game take forever, and there aren't enough interesting and useful weapons or enemies to battle. With all that taken into consideration, we're going to give Madness Beverage for the Atari VCS 800 2 classic controllers out of 5. This game is just not very good, even on the Atari VCS, which needed some good first-person shooter games and some more variety on the console. If you're a fan of Serious Sam and similar first-person shooters, then maybe you'll really like this one, but I think most people can safely skip it in favor of safer purchases on the VCS, like the Recharge series or even Food Fight Culinary Combat. But now I want to hear from you guys. Did you pick up Madness Beverage on the Atari VCS? Or one of the previous consoles it was released on? If so, did you like the game? And what do you think of the beverage mechanic? If you played it, did you use it more than me? Or better yet, do you think I'm being too harsh on this Atari VCS release? Let me know down in the comments below. But with all that said, it's time for me to sign off. I'm the 7800 Pro System Gamer, beverage-loving madman here at the Atari Network, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. Keep it classy, Atarians.